Hi, this is Craig from Compos, and this is the SJX boat. Today we're going to go over the basic break-in procedure, maintenance, winterization, and just try and get you familiar with the different components on the boat and how to take care of it. Pretty basic stuff. It's in the owner's and service manual, but it's always good to be able to point and look at the different components. So you can always refer to this video after you get the boat on the water if you have any questions, or feel free to call us at 1-800-478-7669. Okay, let's get started. Your boat came with a Mercury operator's manual for the V6 Optimax 200 horse engine. It's got some good information in it, including maintenance, fuel information, general specs, codes for the gauge, and so forth. So that's a good manual. If you want to really get a good manual, get the optional Mercury shop service manual. They cost about the same as an hour's labor and will save you a lot more than that. There's some stuff you can't do, obviously, but there's a lot of stuff and it's got pictures and real good blow-by-blow description of how to work on the boat. So this is a good investment. It's about $100, but it's a really good investment in your boat. So I recommend you buy a Mercury service manual, and it's for the 200 Optimax jet drive. Okay, I want to start with the dash and the controls. Basically, we have a tether cord, which should be attached. It's attached to the dash. It's an emergency shutoff. When you're operating the boat, this should be attached to your life vest or something attached to your body. And that is in the event that you come out of the boat for any reason, the engine stops. So we strongly recommend you always wear your tether cord, attach it to your body. The remote control is a single lever remote control. It's got neutral, forward, and reverse. We prefer this over the dual lever just because it's so much easier to make an emergency maneuver if you need to. What you need to know is that the boat will not start unless it's in neutral. If it's out just a little bit, you'll see me try and start it. The horn comes on, but nothing happens. You have to be in the little neutral. It's a little detent area there, and then the boat will start. Sometimes if you're operating the boat, if you're floating down a river and you need to start real quickly because you're approaching a shallow shelf for a sweeper, you can simply hold the key all the way over and move the control down until you hear it start. That's just a shortcut if you need to use it, but we recommend just putting it in neutral and then starting it. On the key, every time you turn the key to the on position, you'll hear the hot horn chirp, and that's just to let you know the horn is working. Doesn't mean anything's hot. Hot would be indicated if it came on and stayed on solid after you started it. So basically, you just turn the key to the on position. When you do that, it activates the fuel lift pump, so it takes fuel up to the engine, and then you turn the key over. The beauty of these boats is they start so easy. The engines almost always start within a second. If they don't, there's something wrong. It should just turn over and start. No issues of cold starting. There's no primer or choke. It's all fully automated. It senses your atmospheric pressure, your temperature outside, everything, and it will start accordingly. So really nice system there. The boat RPM. This has got the SmartCraft gauge, which comes with the SJX. It's about a $700 or $800 gauge. It's the top of the line. It's got a multitude of features. We'll go through some of them. But basically on the RPM, your boat's going to run at a wide open throttle. It's governed to about 5,500 RPM, right in that range. And so 5,500 it would be considered wide open throttle. Usually faster than you want to go most of the time, both for sightseeing and fuel economy. Your best fuel economy is in the 3,800 to 4,000 RPM range. Typically is going to be roughly 5 to 6 gallons an hour, which is excellent for a boat with this kind of horsepower. I'm going to turn the key on so you can see the gauge, some of the features of the Mercury SmartCraft gauge. You basically have indicators. It says your battery's okay, your temperature is okay, and your water pressure, your PSI is okay. And the bottom of the gauge is a mode switch, and you can click through the switch, and you'll see we're at 12.4 volts with the battery. Push again, we're at 90% fuel remaining, and so we're almost full. Right now this is indicating a temperature of 39 Fahrenheit, but of course the boat's not in the water. You have a water pressure gauge, and of course the boat's not running. Normally that would be in the 6 to 8 psi range when you're up on step. Lower at idle, of course. Again, this shows both your voltmeter and the total hours on the boat. This boat has 116 hours. It's got your gallons per hour. For sure we're not burning anything right now because the engine's not running, but this is a nice, you can watch what the engine's burning, and this is the total amount of fuel used to date on the boat. And then your digital RPM, which will be equal to your analog RPM gauge, and so you can watch it there. It also has some trolling features. You can set your trolling speed for back trolling or trolling for silvers. You can select your trolling speed by tapping the troll up or troll down button, and it adjusts your RPM idle. Kind of a nice feature for trolling. You also have an analog fuel gauge, which will match with your fuel percentage gauge. These tanks are 40 gallons, so you'll know that when you're at about half a tank, you have about 20 gallons left, but your gauge will confirm that. Before starting the boat, you should always hit the blower, and you'll be able to hear it run. Your blower removes any fuel fumes from the engine compartment. The Coast Guard recommends you run that for 5 minutes before starting. What I like to do is when I arrive at a boat launch, before I even take my tie downs off, I reach in and I hit my blower, and that just saves you from having to wait for the blower to run for 5 minutes. Once you're up on step, your louvers on the back of the engine compartment here, you have an air intake louver on the port side and an air out on the starboard side, and that, as you're up on step, that removes the need to run your blower. So after you're up on step, you can shut the blower off, and the normal air movement going through there will take care of keeping your engine area free of fumes. You have a mechanical bilge pump that comes with the boat, 500 gallons per hour bilge pump. There's also a secondary pressure pump that just lays on the bottom of the bilge, which also pumps water out if you're up on step, so you don't have to run this in a rain. If it's raining or something, it should keep up. We'll go over that when we go back to the engine. You have your navigation lights, which are on the side of the boat, Coast Guard required. Up is for your running lights, the middle is off, and down is for your stern light, which we'll show you that when we're at the back of the boat. That's for if you're anchored up, so other boats know that you're anchored up. It's important to remember to leave this in the middle. These are nice. This is a nice panel because they're lit if the gauge is on. So you want to leave it in the middle. Most of the time, obviously, if you're not running the boat, if you have young kids in the yard, you may want to get a battery selector switch where you can shut the battery off. Otherwise, if they play with the switches and leave that on, come Memorial Day, you're ready to go boating and the battery's dead because the lights have been on for a week. So leave that off. This is your optional wiper switch if you have a windshield wiper. There's an accessory switch if you want to run, running lights or radios or anything. It's all rigged already for running lights. It has a 12-volt power point for charging your cell phone, your camcorder, whatever. So that's right behind the steering wheel there. And then it has a horn, just to let boats know you're approaching or emergency. You can you can hit your horn button. This particular boat has the optional heater, and it won't make heat unless you're at 3,000 RPM or higher, which is basically up on step, but it makes tremendous heat. It has a fan for low, medium, and high, and the vent louvers are up on the dash here. This is your standard heater kit. You can spin it around to face the window, and over on the port side is your optional passenger heater that runs through the cargo box here and up on the other side to keep mama warm. Don't sell many of these to married people that don't opt for the passenger heater kit for obvious reasons. Okay, we are going to continue on now to one of our more recent innovations, which is our helm lever. This operates the rear stomp grate from the helm lever, from the helm position, so that if you ever get any debris in your jet, you don't even have to run to the back and hit the mechanical stomp, the easy clean grate. All you have to do is grab this lever, pull, and it pulls down on the lever, as you'll see, and that cleans the intake out. Very important, you always want to have the key off when activating either the helm lever or pushing on the stomp grate. Just turn it off just for a second or two while you clear the jet, and that way it prevents you maybe ingesting something off the river bottom even at idle. These are incredibly powerful pumps, and it'd be a real shame to ingest more than you already had in there. But these are a wonderful device. Just use it appropriately by turning the key off, clean out, and then starting the boat back up. One other word of caution: if you ever really pack that intake tight, if you jam it, you run aground and you have a lot of rocks in the intake, if you can't operate this with one hand, don't force it with two. Go to the back and step on the grate. You have a lot better leverage from your foot pushing down on the grate from the cable versus the cable pulling down from underneath, and you don't want to bend a cable or break it. So that is pretty much everything up on the dash. We'll move on back to the what powers the boat. Under here is your 40-gallon fuel tank. The boat burns a regular 87 octane. There is no reason at all to run high octane fuel because the engine is tuned for 87 octane. And a 40-gallon tank gives you a tremendous amount of range, especially at cruise, which is about 5 or 6 gallons an hour. Okay, the side compartments here are simply storage. They're not watertight storage. They're just made for a toolbox, things that you put back there. So just remember, if you have something you want to keep watertight, that isn't the place to keep it. There's other areas you can do that. The fuel fill over here is you just push in on the back and lift it up to fill your fuel tank. You'll see I keep a super siphon here, which is a magical device. If you have polycubes or if you're hauling fuel in drums and you want to transfer the fuel, you simply put the check ball down in the tank, put the, after cleaning it, put the hose down in there, and then just pump the hose a few times and it'll gravity feed the tank. In about 5 minutes it'll be empty. It's a neat system, and it's kind of nice to be able to have a simple way to transfer fuel. Always remember, of course, to shut your fuel tank when you're done, or you're going to get water and rain in there, and that's not a good thing. Okay, well, we're going to go under the engine box and show you the 200 horse Optimax. This is a 2-cycle direct injected engine, as opposed to carbureted engines, which are kind of a thing of the past. The direct injected engine is better than a fuel injected engine. It's better than a semi-directed engine. It is the most advanced two-cycle engine, and it's great on fuel economy, and it's excellent for service and maintenance. The beauty of the direct injected engine also is that it doesn't tend to load up like a carbureted engine. There's no cold starting issues. You don't have to worry about a primer or a choke. You just turn the key and the thing starts, and that's what we like about it. It is an oil injected engine, so there's a 3-gallon oil tank down here, and you have to maintain your oil in there. We recommend you use a high quality 2-cycle oil. Like, you can use Mercury direct injected oil. You can use an equivalent. Yamaha makes an excellent oil. There's several companies. I would stay away from your supermarket oils. Some of those are very low quality, and it could void your warranty if you run a really low quality oil in this high quality engine. The important thing is before every trip, you should check your oil level. Make sure your oil tank is full or close to it. This cap needs to be good and hand snug after filling it, because if it isn't, it will cause problems. So you want to tighten it and get it good and hand snug, like that. The 3-gallon tank feeds a small reserve tank over here on the port side of the engine. Okay, the engine is the oil is fed by crankcase pressure, and that's what feeds this small tank. And this tank is what feeds the oil pump so that the engine stays properly lubricated. If you forget to fill this big tank, there is a sensor on the oil tank, and when it gets down to about when it runs out on the big tank, you're only at about 9% fuel remaining. With the SmartCraft gauge, it will tell you that you're low on oil. It'll tell you you're at 9%, and basically you only have about 20 minutes of run time left on that little tank. So it's gonna flash low oil. It'll give you the beep, 4 beeps every 2 minutes, which will tell you, hey, I'm low on oil. In the event you forget about oiling your big tank and you start to run off the small tank, when you go to refill your big tank, you have to take the cap off the small tank, and top it off all the way to the top. You can't have any air in this system, or it'll think it's low on oil. When they figure out how to make an engine run without oil, would be interested in that engine. I don't think they're going to do that, but you got to keep oil in your engine to keep it running. So that's it on the oil. Just a good idea before every trip, just to check your oil level, top it off if you need. I always carry 1 gallon of oil with me at least as a backup in my storage box. It's a good idea to get a small funnel so you don't make a big mess when you're pouring your oil, and that should take care of that. The battery is a Group 24 high quality battery. We use Interstate, but you can use any brand so long as you're at least 750 cold cranking amps. This one is 800, and that's because of the direct injection engine requires a high cold cranking amp battery. Okay, we're going to move on. This boat has the optional sand trap, and basically it's taking your incoming water and filtering it through a screen before it goes through the rest of the system. It's easy, it swivels, you can unscrew this bowl and dump it out. It is important to note that there is a gasket in here, so if you rinse it out in a river, make sure to keep your fingers over that gasket or remove it first. I recommend you carry an extra gasket in your toolkit, because if you lose this gasket, it is going to spray water everywhere inside your bilge pump, or inside your bilge area. So you want to rinse this out. We'll do that in a minute, and then put it back on. Good idea at the end of the season. We'll go over winterization, but that's one of the things you want to drain at the end of the season. Real simple to do. This is your engine lid. It's very, very seldom you'd have to get under this lid, but there is a bungee cord on the port side of the engine. You just disconnect it, kind of wiggle this straight up, and it exposes the flywheel, the alternator, your air handler system, and so forth. Again, there's no carburetors because it's a direct injected engine. There is a filter under here that feeds the air handler, the compressor, and so forth. If you ever take it off and it's all black, that would be an indication you've blown a hose, or you had something that caused it. And this should be, they recommend you change these annually. It's an inexpensive filter and it pops right out. Not a bad idea. You have a water separator fuel filter coming out of the tank. There is a shutoff valve for transporting the boat if you're going a long distance or off season. If you want to shut the fuel system off, the fuel flow off, you can. This is in the open position. One thing about a direct injected engine is that it's very important to keep good fuel going to that engine. You don't want any water. Water is the enemy of any engine, especially a direct injected engine, and it's easy to prevent. Mercury has a nice system of sensors and warnings if there's water that gets beyond the onboard filter, and we'll go over the fuel system now. Like I mentioned earlier, it's 87 octane, just pump unleaded is all it's required in the fuel tank itself. The fuel will leave the tank. This is your fuel lift pump, and so when you turn the key, you'll hear this fuel lift pump tick. It kind of goes tick, 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 and that's just pulling fuel up to the system to be ready to go into the other fuel pumps. It's got a small inline filter here, also should be changed annually, just ahead of the lift pump. But basically, that's pulling fuel up through the filter, through the Raycor filter, and up, getting it ready here to go on through the system when you start the engine. On the bottom of the water separator filter is a bolt, a drain, and if you ever do get a note on your dash that you have water in the gas, or if you get the horn going off, the beeping code that indicates water in the gas, you'd want to start by draining the fuel out of the water separator filter, Raycor filter. And I always carry like a spray paint lid, something hard plastic that you can check it, you can pour it into and look at it and see if you have any water in there. But you have to get it out of this system if you do indeed ingest water into the tank, or you left your cap open, or for some reason you had water in the gas. Once it goes beyond this filter, it goes up into your lift pump, past the small inline filter, and then it's going to feed into your main onboard water separator filter. This is the black filter on your boat that has a small wire going to the bottom of it. You'll want to carry in your toolkit the filter wrench, like you'd use for a small, like a Japanese car filter, a small car filter. It's about the same size as an oil filter on a small car, and of course you simply pull the little plug off straight down. You wiggle it and it comes right off. That's your sensor, and then you put the filter wrench on it and spin the filter off. The nice thing with this system is that it was designed where if water gets beyond your racehorse filter, because they'll only hold so much, and it goes up into your main onboard filter, as water comes up that filter, there's a little sensor there that will indicate to the dash water in the gas. You may also get the code 4 beeps every 2 minutes. Now that's the same code as a low oil code, but you'll know it's one of those two. If you're not low on oil, then you've got water in your gas. And with the new SmartCraft gauge, it will tell you water in the gas or low oil. So for some reason you didn't have that, you can opt not to get the SmartCraft gauge, which is standard now, and then you'd have to pay attention to those beep codes. Those codes are in the owner's manual, which you should always carry in your boat, and I recommend you put it in a Ziploc so that it doesn't get wet. Keep it in your toolkit so you can refer to it if you need to. So that's pretty much the fuel system. There's a high and low pressure fuel pump, which don't demand any attention or anything. They take care of themselves pretty much. But that's pretty much the fuel system on the Optimax. Okay, next we'll go to the other side of the engine. Basically, you just have your alternator, which charges your battery and your other components. You have your air handler, and it has an alternator belt here. A lot of people ask me if they need to carry one. I've never had to replace one, but there's a first time for everything. It's like a spare tire. You don't need it till you need it. They are available, but very, very seldom we see a problem there. On the opposite side of the motor, mostly your electronics, your starter motor, your starter solenoid, your fuses, relays. The electronic portion of this engine has been bulletproof. The things you can check occasionally is make sure you have a good connection. Don't snap it, don't get brutal, but check your solenoid, red solenoid wire, because especially on a direct injected engine, if you have a loose cable or a loose ground, it can create running issues, and you'll track down everything else and then find out it was just a loose cable. So check that, check your grounds occasionally. Just make sure your wires are not loose when you wiggle them with your hand, and that's really all you have to check occasionally. There is a really nice Mercury diagnostic system we have in our service department, as most Merc dealers do. If there's an odd issue, a running issue or something, we have a diagnostics that can point us usually right to the area of concern. There are some fuses on the engine for the fuel pump, the starter system, and so forth, and I recommend you carry just some extra, I think 5, 15, and 20 amp fuses, just one of each, just to carry them in your toolkit. They're the common double spade automotive style fuses, so you want to just carry some of those. This is your water flush kit, and this is if you run in salt water or if you ever overheat the engine and need to flush the passages, you just simply take this nut off and you thread in your garden hose. Important, you turn the water on the garden hose on fully and let it run before you start the engine. You want to do it in that order so that there's water inside the system. One other important note on your water flusher is you don't want to run higher than an idle. Just if you come out of the salt water and you're going to flush the system, you can do it one of two ways. You can either run it on the garden hose, as I described, and just let it run for a few minutes, 3 or 4 minutes, just at an idle or a high idle is fine. Don't run high RPM. If you don't have access to a garden hose, you should run it over to a Clearwater lake or river, shortly after getting out of the salt water, within a couple of 3 hours. If you can just back it in and run it for 3 or 4 minutes on the trailer, that's what you need to do. You're just flushing any corrosion salt out of there. The motor is equipped with stainless fasteners, zinc anodes on the jet, so it's as well protected for ocean use as possible, but salt water can be nasty, and it's a good idea to flush it every time. Okay, we're pretty much done under the hood. Other than just showing you the mechanical bilge pump is this gray hose that lays down there. That will pump water out of the bilge at about 3,000 RPM in addition to your mechanical bilge pump. So this is always going. It's either pumping air or water out of the bilge, whatever's in there. So that's pretty simple. There is a circuit breaker switch hidden back here. If you ever had a situation that caused the circuit breaker to pop, you simply push it back down. It's hidden right underneath here, this plate. It's out of the way, and it's very seldom an issue. Winterization. Okay, if you're in an area where it gets below freezing, you need to winterize your boat. The beauty of the Optimax is the engine completely self-drains. There's no manifolds, no petcocks to worry about. There's just a few small external components you need to address, and it's important you do that. And we'll go over those right now. If you have a sand trap, you want to drain the glass bowl on the sand trap, and then you can screw it back on snugly. And it's a good idea to just make sure that's empty. If it's not, if you leave it full of water and you freeze over the winter, it will crack this. And if you don't lift your engine and check in the spring, you're going to take off, you're going to fill the bilge with water. And the boat's going to get real heavy in the back after about 10 minutes. So you want to check that. If you have a heater, these are your heater lines here, and there's two little, what they call Prestone fittings. It's just raw water that's used, but these little T-fittings, you want to open both those caps, take them off, and so that the heater will gravity feed down into the water will drain down into the bilge and not get trapped in the heater core up under the dash. Check under your dash. You may have some of the boats have a fitting similar to that up near the heater. It's a good idea if you're near compressed air to go ahead and chase a little compressed air in one side till it runs out the other, just as an additional preventative. But we do try and use the heaters that are that won't trap water in the heater core. Every once in a while you'll get one that does, so if you can chase some air through that, all the better. Those are two things as far as winterization. You should put, ideally, if you have access to it, you can pick up storage fogging oil and put some storage fogging oil into the system. The instructions are on the can. It kind of coats everything inside the engine, and a fuel stabilizer in the gas tank. There's all kinds of good fuel stabilizers. You can buy them at any good marine shop, marine fuel stabilizer, or even at a supermarket, as long as it's a good quality brand and a good proven fuel stabilizer. There's also a product called Quick Clean that Mercury makes. There's also similar versions made by Yamaha, Evinrude, and some of the others. And it is designed specifically to clean your injectors. It's a mixture you pour into your gas tank occasionally. Just follow the instructions on there. That's a good idea. The only other real winterization point is something that's a little harder to get to, but it's important. And it's over here on the starboard side of the engine. We'll take a look at it. Okay, one thing we've developed is a really slick winterization plug on the base of the engine. We found that occasionally, if you run heavy silt, you could trap silt underneath the jet adapter plate where you really can't see it or get to it. It plugs the water, it plugs a little water escape hole. It doesn't matter at all during the regular season, but if you do it going into the winter and you don't know about it, that water has to go somewhere. If it's trapped in there from silt, it's got to go somewhere, and it'll break a gasket. So we developed a neat little escape access plug for every SJX boat, so that condition will never happen. You'll never have to spend $400 and replace a base gasket so long as you take this little plug out at the end of the winter. It's installed prior to the boat engine going into the boat at the factory. We got approval with Mercury, and it's a really clever system, and it just prevents that potential problem from ever happening. I'm going to show you where it's at. So to locate the little winter drain bolt, go to this is your bilge hose, your bilge pressure hose that runs off the engine and goes down, and runs off the jet and goes down to the bilge area. Almost right behind there on this engine base plate, right there, you will find your little bolt that's threaded and goes into the engine adapter plate. All you have to do is put a wrench on there, a socket, and spin it out. I believe it's 9/16, and you take it out. It's about 3/4 to an inch long, and it has a washer on it. Just remove that, and I recommend you put it in a Ziploc bag with any other winterization items, for example, like your heater hose T-fittings. Put them in a Ziploc and attach them to your steering wheel. That will remind you in the spring not to operate your boat until you put this plug back in there. Right there, you can't see it, but I can feel it right there, and put that plug back in snug. Put your Prestone fittings back on your heater hoses, double check your sand trap, make sure it isn't broken, and you are ready to go back in the water. So it's a simple system. We've incorporated the emergency water exit bolt, which is really handy, and I think we're the only company that does that. But it does prevent a lot of headache down the road, because that will happen to a boat that doesn't have it sooner or later if you live in a northern environment. Okay, next we're going to just talk briefly about the jet and what you need to pay attention to as far as maintenance on that end. The jet unit is pretty straightforward, low maintenance. This particular boat has our patented MJack fire nozzle, steering nozzle, so you can couple it onto a fire hose and use it for putting out a fire or hosing down something. That's kind of it's called our MJack Marine Jet Adapter Kit. They normally are just a black standard nozzle. We have just modified it, and it's a patented product we designed. These in here are your reverse gate bushings. You should check them every 50 to 100 hours. If you operate in heavy silt, you'll get a lot of back and forth slop. I have very little now on this boat, but those bushings are like $10. They're very inexpensive and easy to replace. The jet stator has got an oil fitting that you can change the oil annually. It's real simple. The owner's manual shows you how to do that. And then on the bottom of the boat, there's two plugs for your gearbox, where the crankshaft turns 90 degrees to the drive shaft. There's a pinion gear, and there's about a 24-ounce oil cavity. Very simple. You get under the boat, you chase oil in one side till it runs out the other, and you do that once a year, and that's all there is to it. Very, very, very simple, low maintenance jet unit. It isn't installed now, but if you opt for the full canvas package, there is a little service and maintenance requirements on canvas. Very simple. First of all, your canvas, when it's in the up position, is mounted in these receivers here. When you're going, when you have it up in the up position, when you roll it up and take it down, these thumb screws will move to the back storage position, and the boom will lay at the very back of the boat, and it lays in between the stomp grate and the engine box. As far as service on the keeping the canvas in good condition, I can't stress enough, if you just use light soapy water once or twice, maybe 3 or 4 times a year, and just wash the side windows, keep the dust off them. Dust accumulating is what the sun's attracted to, and that's what fades windows. So if you keep your side windows clean, and just use a garden hose or some light soapy water and clean them every once in a while, you'll have minimal problems. You won't have that 5 to 7 year fade on your side windows. On the canvas snaps, if you just every once in a while clean those out with water, and you can also use a little chapstick. Chapstick works great to lubricate the snaps, and then your snaps go on and off easier and they don't get tight. Well, that's pretty much it. I'm sure there's other questions you may have after operating the boat. Please feel free to refer back to this video. If you have any specific questions, you can call us at 1-800-478-7669, and or you can email sales@compos.com. That's COMPEAUS. We're more than happy to help you. We like suggestions. If there's anything that you put on your boat that you think would be a neat accessory for an SJX, let us know. Some of our accessories came right from customer input. That's all for now. Enjoy your boat. I know you will. I enjoy mine. Have a good one.